you're passionate about transforming retail operations and improving performance, plus you're accountable for key change projects and programs in your company, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Retail Transformation Show with me, Oliver Banks. Hello, it's Oliver Banks here, and I am your host today on the Retail Transformation Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know there are many different podcasts, and it's great that you could carve out the time to tune in and join me today. You know just as well as I do that the retail market is moving at an incredible pace right at the moment. We're seeing a huge flow of new innovations and disruptive technologies. We're seeing a lot of different businesses struggling or succeeding. And ultimately, just by the very fact that you're listening to this podcast today, I know that you know that transformation is a big deal in retail right at the moment. But really, to make a success of your retail transformation, you do need to be in the know. You need to be up to speed with what's going on in the retail market. You don't want to be transforming your retail business in a cupboard only to find when you get out at the other end, the world has changed and your transformation is completely irrelevant. It would make you want to cry, right? So today, what I wanted to do was help you out with that challenge. I wanted to give you some keys to help you stay up to speed with what's going on across retail at any given moment in time. So I'm going to be sharing a whole load of resources and sources as well that you can check out on a daily or weekly basis. You're definitely going to want to check out the show notes from today's episode, where I'm going to include a ton of links, and it's also going to be continually evolving that page. So you can find all of those notes over at obandco.uk/39. That's obandco.uk/39. But just before we dive into all of those sources and resources, it's worth, I thought, recognizing as to why it's difficult. Surely in the world of the internet and smartphones, it must be easy to stay up to date. Well, yes, it is easy to consume information, easier than it's ever been before. But there is more information than there has ever been before as well. It takes a ton of time to filter and search and find out what it is. And you might not even know if it's going to be a fruitful search at the end of the day as well. And there's so much going on as well. As we've already said, retail is moving at a super fast pace. What I think is particularly interesting about the retail world that we live in today is not just that it's fast moving, but it's also really broad as well. No longer are the latest retail innovations necessarily just coming from the big companies. It's not just that you need to keep an eye on your Amazons, your Walmarts, your Tesco's anymore. But actually, the next big thing could come from them, or it could come from a smaller company that's really specialized and focused in on a particular niche or topic. And that company could be anywhere in the whole wide world. So it's a broad net that you need to cast out to be able to really keep an eye on what the next big hot topic is going to be. So it can become overwhelming just trying to stay up to date. Goodness gracious, it could be a full-time job. And that's why I wanted to give you all of these resources today. These are resources that I trust, that I use on a day-to-day, a week-to-week basis. And I'm also delighted to let you know that I'm launching my new Transformation News Update. This is an email update every single week. It's free to subscribe, free to unsubscribe as well, of course. And you can find that link to subscribe to that over at obandco.uk/39. It's going to include some of the latest and most interesting innovations and transformation news to help keep you up to speed. It's going to include links from other companies as well. It will include links to interesting discussions on social media that you can get involved in. So if you're finding this a challenge, I do recommend that you would join in my email list, and you'll get this transformation briefing in your inbox every single week, and it's going to help you just keep up to speed. If you're busy, if you don't have time to go and find this information, let me deliver it for you. So let's dive on in then. I've got 7 different sources, so let's go through them. Number 1, and this is going to be the easiest one to get started in, by the way, and you're probably already doing this, but it's reading the latest news. Retail is always featured in the news, in the newspapers, in the mainstream media. It always captures people's imagination. The whole wide world plays into the retail industry. We're all shoppers, we're all consumers, and of course, the whole retail industry employs a load of people as well. So it always features widely in the mainstream media, as I say. So do start there. You'll get a natural filter that mean you get the biggest stories, the most relevant stories, and the biggest innovations coming through as well, because they're interesting. But you won't get the cutting edge stuff. But it's still worth staying in touch with it. It's topical. You can either, of course, read your favourite newspapers, make sure it's a good, broad newspaper. And you can get news from around the world, of course, in today's internet-enabled world. So that's great. It can also be worth setting up Google email alerts as well. So this is where you can set a search term and Google will continue to trawl the web and will email you if there is a new article about whatever topic you want to know about. So if you're wanting to know about supply chain innovation, you can set up that email alert, and it's called a Google alert. You can set that up for retail supply chain innovation, and every time there's a new news article, it will ping you for that. So that's a good way of staying in touch with whatever's going on across the World Wide Web. Now, of course, if you get that search term too broad, you could be inundated with stuff, and you can set up the alerts as to how frequently they're doing it and so on. So number 1, read the latest news. The second top source that I've got for you is to sign up for a retail briefing email. Now, there are 3 different ones that I'd certainly suggest. Number 1, the Retail Gazette. Number 2, the Retail Update by LZ. And number 3, Retail Week. Now, what I like about these is they give you the hot news topics that is happening on a daily or a weekly basis. Retail Week is a subscription-based service, but if you do subscribe, it's not too expensive. You can dive into all of the latest retail news that's happening, and I think you get breaking news alerts as well, which is particularly topical if you're serving the retail industry rather than in it, and you want to make sure you're continually up to date with what's going on, particularly with company results, with the latest people moves, particularly obviously at a senior level, and you get general insight about what's going on. Now, these type of retail briefings are, as I say, great for news stories, great for results, great for big innovations. What you don't necessarily get is the advice or the transformation particular reflection. It's more about the very factual elements of what's going on in the retail marketplace, which is still very important to consume. So, as I say, do sign up for them. Whether you sign up for all 3 or whether you sign up for just one, that's really up to you. It depends how up to date you want to be. And of course, how much time you've got to consume. You don't want to be overloaded with new emails popping into your inbox every single second with what's going on in retail, particularly if it's not relevant or if it's not been filtered to your particular interests. The third item is to follow some retail influencers on social media, and in fact, engage on social media generally. Now, I've found, particularly for the world of retail transformation, Twitter and LinkedIn are the 2 platforms that you want to be focused in on. But it really depends on your niche as well. So perhaps it's Facebook, perhaps it's Instagram, perhaps it's something else. And of course, as time moves forward and this podcast remains in history, there could be other social networks as well. So don't hold me to that one. But Twitter and LinkedIn is generally where I find the most useful, most insightful information from, as I say, a bunch of different retail influencers. There are lots of different people that you can follow, and I do suggest you take a little look around and make sure you're engaging and following the right people. I particularly want to say thank you to some of the amazing people I follow or engage with, in particular Andrew Busby, Natalie Berg, Steve Dresser, Maya Knights, George MacDonald, Ed Armishaw, Steve Collins, Steve Dennis, Neil Saunders, Brian Roberts. There are a load more, And I'm going to put all of those. I appreciate I've just read out a list of names, but it's worth following these people. They have their finger firmly on the pulse and they're sharing insight and opinion, which I think is important. You need to know how to filter it and what it's saying as well. So you get to dive into a bit more of their thoughts. I'm going to put all of those links, as I say, to their profiles over on the show notes page, obandco.uk/39. Oh, and by the way, I'm also on Twitter and LinkedIn, and if we're not connected, then we should be. So Oliver Banks on LinkedIn and Ollie_Banks. That's OLLIE_Banks on Twitter. So that is the third item. The fourth item is to read research reports and insight from market research agencies. I'm thinking companies like Ipsos, GfK, Kantar. There are a load more research companies as well, of course. But what they do is they really look to understand the market and the consumer as well. So they understand what's going on in the world, in people's lives, and it gives you a bit of a theme as to what's going on. How can you use that? How can you adapt and transform to fit in with that research, to fit in with those trends? It's a good source of secondary data, and of course, if you're needing more information about your particular and specific niche, I would recommend engaging some of those companies or other market research companies to really do some specific, tailored, primary market research for your use case, for your niche, for your customers. So that's the fourth item, reading research from market research agencies. The fifth item is to read thought leadership from big consultancies or other businesses as well. The big consultancies, we're talking about companies like PwC, Capgemini, Bain, Accenture, Deloitte. The list goes on, of course. And they produce insight reports, opinion pieces that are, again, free to download, free to access. And they're diving into particular areas, hot topics. Maybe it's an e-commerce in 2019 report. Maybe it's the state of experiential retail. You make up the topic. If it's a big hot topic, those companies will be diving into it and sharing some research that goes on. I particularly like the PwC CEO report, which is done on an annual basis. I think that's quite interesting to understand what's on the mind of chief executive officers in the modern day world. What's stressing them out? What are they comfortable with? And there are a whole load. So do check out those websites. As I say, they're listing through, and you can follow some of their people on social media as well. And that will give you a bit more insight as to when those reports are coming out. But it's not just the big consultancies, as I mentioned. Other businesses also release insight papers and research reports. I've seen a couple of really good ones recently from GeoBlink, from Ring Central. There are a whole load more. So do check it out. But there are loads to consume. So that's why I'm creating this transformation update email newsletter, if you will, that you can sign up for today. I'm going to include the links to the reports that I read and think are great and really useful. So I'm going to help you do some of that filtering for you. The sixth item I've got to share with you today is that you can listen to podcasts to keep up to date. Hopefully you're subscribed to this podcast, but if you're not, here's your hint. Hit subscribe right now and make sure you get the latest episodes of the Retail Transformation Show every single Monday. And there are loads of other podcasts that you can listen to as well. What I would suggest is searching through the different libraries on your favorite podcast app and make sure you're putting in the search terms that are relevant for you, whether it's customer experience, whether it's supply chain, whether it's finance, depends what's relevant for you. So I'm not going to subscribe or suggest any particular podcasts that you should check out, but there are a whole load, as I say. But do remember, hit subscribe to the Retail Transformation Show. The seventh item I've got for you in this bumper pack of resources to help keep you up to speed, to help keep you up to date, is to attend conferences and events. Whether you're going to the big events, NRF, Retail Week Live, or Tech, or the Be Inspired by Retail Week as well, the Retail Expo, There are loads of different big retail events that you can go to, but there are loads of small ones as well, and I'll come back to those in a little minute. When you go to a big event, there's kind of three rich sources of insight and information to help keep you up to speed. Number one is the classic networking, being in touch, speaking to different people, and getting your finger on the pulse of the retail industry is always valuable. It's great to hear from different speakers, listening to their talk, listening to their insight. You can understand a bit more about what's going on and what some of the hot topics are. So do pay attention to those speakers. And finally, the exhibitors also are really informative because generally they're paying quite a bit of money to be at these events. And there is a reason for that. The reason is they've got their finger on the pulse. They know what they're selling is a hot topic right at the moment, and it could be a really big help for you and your retail business. So it's that kind of triple threat of the networking, the speakers, and the exhibitors that can give you a good insight and a bit of understanding as to what's going on in retail at any given moment in time. Now, as I mentioned, there's loads of different events and loads of different topical events. If you're interested in HR or customer experience or technology or supply chain, whatever, there are loads of different events. But smaller events that are also insightful and interesting, generally put on by the suppliers of retail, or for retailers, I should say. They zoom into a particular niche topic and help you dive a little deeper. It's going to give you insight that perhaps you wouldn't hear on a day-to-day basis. It's going to give you intel that you could use to progress your retail business. But of course, you've got to make sure you're tailoring them. You're looking at what the right event is for your particular interest. Keep an eye on social media and you can get the latest on those as well. So events are critical to really keep your finger on the pulse, as I say. So those are our 7 categories. And there's a lot in there, don't get me wrong. You could still spend a lot of time, even though I've helped you filter through some of the best sources on the internet and in the world today. But as I say, I am wanting to help you even more, which is why I'm putting together this weekly transformation briefing, this transformation update. It's got a particular theme around retail transformation, of course, because this is the Retail Transformation Show and that's my bag. So don't expect to get the latest company news or, company results from that, but it will talk about the latest innovations or the latest trends going into retail transformation right now. So do sign up. You can sign up there for free, as I say, obandco.uk/39. Or if you can't remember that, you can either message me on LinkedIn or on Twitter, send me a private message and send me your email and I will happily make sure that you are subscribed to get those briefings, those updates every single week. And if there's more info as you start to receive those, if there's more or different things that you want to know, I'm here to serve you. So let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback on it as well. So just as a bit of a recap, let's run back through those 7 different categories right now. Number 1, reading the latest news, staying in touch with the mainstream media and newspapers, and also setting up some Google alerts to help you keep your finger right on the pulse. Number 2, signing up for retail briefings that you get into your inbox about the latest retail news. Number 3, being on social media, in particular LinkedIn and Twitter would be my recommendation, and following the right people. I gave you a whole list of people that you could follow, and there are loads more. So if I've missed you off, I'm very sorry. A whole podcast reading off a list of people's names wouldn't be so interesting. So I've tried to filter it down to some of the people that are giving hot topics. And as I say, if I have missed you off, I'm sorry, let me know. And by the way, there are a whole load more sources. So if you have a particular source or resource that you'd love to share with everyone, do add it into the comments on the show notes or message me and I'll keep those show notes up to date with your suggestions as well. So number 3 was following retail influencers on social media. Number 4 was reading research and insight from the market research agencies. Number 5, reading insight from big consultancies and other businesses as well. Number 6 was listening to podcasts. And number 7 was attending live conferences and events to stay up to date with that triple threat of the networking, the speakers and the exhibitors. And as I say, I'm sure I have missed some brilliant resources. So do feel free to add a comment into the show notes or send me a message and I will keep those show notes up to date. So you'll get even more than you've heard today. So ob&co.uk/39. And remember to sign up for the email transformation briefings as well. Sign up on the show notes page or send me a message to get the transformation briefings that I'm starting to issue every single week. So I appreciate this podcast has probably been a bit of a bombard of information and you can go down and you can absorb it a whole lot more. And I thoroughly would recommend you head over to that show notes page and you can find all those links rather than trying to listen and type and search on Google. So do head over there, particularly if you've been driving or if you've been at the gym or whatever whilst you've been listening to this. I appreciate you listening every single week. As I say, it's brilliant to get your feedback, your thoughts, your suggestions to help tailor it. And actually, I'm going to be launching soon a bit of a survey to get a bit more of your thoughts and opinion as to how you'd like to see the Retail Transformation Show evolve over time as well. But more on that in the future. Anyway, let's wrap it up there. I hope you have a fantastic week ahead, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next episode. See you then.